We're joined now by former Department of Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson. Welcome to Face the Nation.
Margaret, thanks for having me.
In addition to being Homeland Security Secretary, before that you had also been General Counsel at the Pentagon. So I know you're very familiar with some of the legal authorities here that we may need to look at, because the President says that he may declare a national security emergency in order to get border funding for this wall and take it from other monies that Congress had already approved and use it in a way they didn't approve. Does he have the ability legally to do this? Well,
first, Margaret, I just have to say there is an emerging crisis in Homeland Security on our border by taking the very workers we depend upon for our security, land, sea, air, Secret Service, Coast Guard, Border Patrol, customs agents, and so forth, and inflicting on them all sorts of stress and anxiety in their personal life about whether they're going to be paid and when. That's the security crisis that I see from the workforce in DHS. Now, when it comes legally to whether or not the President can declare a national emergency to get around the dispute, earlier in the week, the administration seemed to be talking about using a Department of Defense authority to take money that's been designated by Congress for military construction toward another project. The law specifically allows for that upon the declaration of a national emergency, but that particular provision is typically used overseas to support the military, like building detention facilities or military housing. The lawyers in the administration now seem to have come to a provision that allows for a reprogramming, as we refer to it, taking money from Army civil works projects here in the United States that were at some point essential to national defense, and then redesignating it, reprogramming it for some other Army civil works project.
Some of that aid money for Puerto Rico and money for California.
In my view, that's probably slightly more legally plausible. The earlier Defense Authority was really trying to jam a square peg in a round hole. This one is slightly more plausible, but politically highly objectionable, because you're taking billions of dollars away from important civil works projects to recover from the hurricanes and the wildfires. And I would predict there'd be huge objection to doing that. Ultimately, this has to be something for our political leadership to work out, to get the government back to work. That's the most basic function of our civilian political leadership, to keep the government open and pay the workers.
Well, and to your point, it is worth what you underscored there, that a number of people who work on national security issues aren't getting paid because of this.
The people we depend upon to find explosives in luggage, to find weapons in luggage, the people we depend upon to secure our borders, to look for contraband at ports, to look for narcotics at ports, are the people that are under great stress right now because of this shutdown. And it must be leading, I think I know this workforce, it must be leading to all kinds of uncertainty, stress, and anxiety, and frankly, anger and resentment. We see reports of TSOs calling in sick. And if this is not resolved soon, I predict that that's going to go in the wrong direction, and we're going to start seeing longer and longer lines at airports.
When you were at DHS, I know you said that at that time in 2015, you saw the influx in apprehensions of children and family units as an emerging crisis. Now the Trump administration is seeing record numbers of those family units coming across the border. They're saying this is a crisis now, and it sounds like the one you saw coming. So this is a unique challenge for them. Are they wrong to call that a crisis?
It is very definitely a humanitarian crisis because of the poverty and violence in Central America. And the way to deal with this problem, frankly, is make a long-term investment in helping to eradicate the poverty and violence in the three countries that are probably the most violent on earth. That's not a quick, simple, easy fix, which Washington
Salvador,
likes.
Honduras, and Guatemala.
Correct. And so we need to make a long-term political commitment to investing and dealing with those push factors. Otherwise, we're going to continue to deal with this problem for a very long time.
Border wall is what I hear you saying, not the most effective way. Let me get, though, to the nuts and bolts of the family members here, because the Obama administration faced some challenges on the question of whether they could detain families together for more than 20 days. That's at the heart of the Trump administration's defenses as to why they were justifying this separation of families. So what alternatives are there?
Well, you're referring to the Flores decision, which imposed basically a limit on us to hold people for longer than 20 days. I think that there has to be a range of tools that DHS can go to in in a crisis when you see a spike like this. Again, it requires a long-term investment in the push factors, but we need things like, we can always assess whether there is more border security that's necessary, more surveillance, more road, perhaps fortifying walls. In my judgment, there also needs to be more immigration judges to move these cases along, but it does require a range of things and a long-term political commitment to dealing with the underlying factors that lead to this crisis.
Very quickly, do you expect the Supreme Court to uphold the DACA ruling?
I hesitate to predict what this Supreme Court will do. I think that there is adequate legal basis for the program.
All right, at the heart of some of these potential solutions. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will be right back.